Hello and welcome to the World News on Souqnews Television. We're reaching you live from our studios in Lagos. I am Grace Komolafe. First, we'll bring you some of our top stories. Nigeria's gross foreign reserves recorded fresh inflows of $28.7 million within 24 hours. NNPC boss Bashir Ojulari links crude oil theft to international gangs and criminals. South Africa High Commission said the country sources more than 70% of its oil supplies from Nigeria. Turkish giant Galatasaray who's Rafael Onyedika with €30 million move from Club Brugge. Thank you for joining us. Now we'll bring you the news in details. Nigeria gross foreign reserves recorded fresh inflows of $28.7 million within 24 hours, closing at $41.10 billion on August 22nd. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, showed that the reserves, which stood at $41.077 billion on August 21, climbed to $41.10 billion the following day, representing a $28.7 million increase. The steady growth in the external reserves comes as a positive development for the economy, providing a stronger buffer for the Naira and bolstering investor confidence. Analysts say the recent uptick signals improved foreign exchange inflows, possibly from oil earnings, diaspora remittances, and portfolio investments. With reserves crossing the $41 billion mark, experts believe the trend could help sustain stability in the foreign exchange market, where the Naira has faced pressure in recent months. The CBN has consistently emphasized the importance of building external reserves to safeguard the economy against external shocks and maintain exchange rate stability. The Naira closed at 1,550 Naira per dollar at the unofficial market on Sunday, unchanged from the previous session, even as the US dollar held firm globally. On the Nigerian foreign exchange market, NEFM, the local unit weakened slightly, setting at 1,536.99 Naira per dollar. This development narrowed the spread between the official and parallel market rates to just 3.1 Naira, down sharply from 15 Naira recorded earlier. Analysts noted that the reduced gap signals improved price alignment across Nigeria's multiple exchange windows, a development the bank has long sought to achieve in order to stabilize forex liquidity and restore investor confidence. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has urged the federal government to suspend the implementation of the 4% free on-board charge on imports by the Nigeria Customs Service. In a statement issued yesterday, MAN described the policy as a subtle reintroduction of the levy, which is said contradicts the federal government's earlier suspension of the charge. The association noted that the renewed enforcement of the 4% FOB import charge effective August 4, 2025 took stakeholders by surprise, given that the government had previously withdrawn it after widespread objections. MAN warned that the policy would further worsen the cost of doing business, increase production expenses, and undermine Nigeria's industrial growth at a time when manufacturers are already contending with high inflation, foreign exchange volatility, and weak consumer demand. The group called an urgent government intervention to prevent what it described as an unnecessary burden on manufacturers and the wider economy. Still in the news, the presidency has announced that President Bola Tinubu has secured the return of Petrobras to Nigeria 5 years after Brazil's state-owned oil company suspended its joint venture operation in the country. In a statement issued on Monday, Special Advisor to President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, described the development as a major step towards revitalizing bilateral energy cooperation. During a joint press conference in Brasilia as part of his state visit to Brazil, President Tinubu welcomed Petrobras' comeback, stressing that the move would strengthen economic and energy ties between both nations. According to him, the company's renewed presence in Nigeria would unlock fresh opportunities in oil and gas exploration, boost foreign direct investment, and support Nigeria's broader industrialization drive. Petrobras, one of the world's largest energy companies, halted operations in Nigeria in 2020 amid a global restructuring plan. Its return is expected to enhance Nigeria's efforts at expanding upstream activity and deepening strategic partnerships in the oil sector. And on the group, Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, Bashir Ojulare, has said crude oil theft in Africa is orchestrated by specialized international and continental gangs exploiting security loopholes. Ojulari stated this on Monday at the opening of the Africa Chiefs of Defense Staff Conference in Abuja, where he called for stronger cross-border collaboration to curb the menace. According to him, crude theft and pipeline vandalism are not localized, but highly coordinated operations that thrive on weaknesses in state, national, and continental security systems. He said crude theft and its attendant illegal activities are by no means a purely localized occurrence. Rather, these operations involve specialized international syndicates that take advantage of gaps within the security architecture to conduct illegal activities. He noted that while theft and vandalism in Nigeria's Niger Delta have persisted for years, the coordinated efforts of security agencies have significantly reduced theft frequently. Ojulari urged African leaders to strengthen regional security frameworks to dismantle the networks behind crude oil theft. Moving ahead, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has launched a renewed anti-violence campaign to tackle the rising incidents of unruly passenger behavior across the aviation industry. Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, Mele Kyari, disclosed this in a statement posted on his X handle. He identified excessive alcohol consumption as the leading trigger behind most disruptive incidents both on board aircraft and within airport terminals. Achimogo stressed that while regulation, safety measures, and airport facilities are already in place, aviation systems are often put to their real test only during crisis. He explained that the unprecedented nature of human behavior requires continuous vigilance, with the system needing to move from a largely reactive posture to a more proactive one. He said the NCAA's campaign will focus on public awareness, tighter enforcement, and collaboration with airline operators to curb unruly conduct that could threaten passenger safety. The regulator reaffirms its commitment to ensuring safe, secure, and orderly air travel in Nigeria. Moving ahead, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has called on the federal government to revive the Warri, Koko, Sapele, and Burutu ports to unlock the full economic potential of the state as a maritime hub. The governor made the appeal on Monday while receiving the Board of Directors of the Nigerian Port Authorities, NPA, led by its chairman, Prince Sen Adebayo Adeleye, during a courtesy visit to Government House, Asaba. Oborevwori said his administration is ready to collaborate with the federal government to ensure the revitalization of the ports, stressing that functional seaports would create jobs, attract investment, and boost national revenue. He said the revival of these ports is key to stimulating economic activity, not just for Delta, but for Nigeria as a whole. He also assured the NPA leadership of the state's full cooperation in efforts to reposition the maritime sector. You're watching the World News here on Souqnews Television. We'll be taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you more stories. Please stay with us.
When you visit Lagos for the first time and Google fun or recreational places in the city, at the top of that list will be Freedom Park. Located in Lagos Island on Broad Street, Freedom Park over the years has become home to the Nigerian arts and the culture at large. From annual big shows like the Lagos Theatre Festival, Celebration at the Lagos Poetry Festival, to local festivals that celebrate literature, music and arts, Freedom Park is one of the most visited recreational sites in Lagos, for both local and tourist people alike. A place to mingle, unwind, or simply just have fun. Freedom Park, however, hasn't always been a place of fun and games. It has a history that dates to 1861, when Lagos was made a British colony. In 1885, Freedom Park was built as a fortified prison from imported bricks. It was referred to as Her Majesty's Broad Street Prison. Some prominent political prisoners were held in the prison, people such as Herbert Macaulay, Michael Imodu, and Obafemi Awolowo. In 1979, Her Majesty's Broad Street Prison was destroyed, reduced to a dumping ground. It was later rebuilt in the 1990s, celebrated in 2010, Nigeria's 50th Independence Day. Freedom Park still holds a bit of its history within its walls. In the museum, where there are pictures and artifacts. Some of the old prison facilities have been converted into leisure facilities that people visit and enjoy today.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Experts Troll, a Bulgarian company, mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souk Enlightenment.
Glad to know you're still with us, and we'll bring you more stories. South Africa sources more than 70% of its oil supplies from Nigeria. Acting High Commissioner and Consul General of the Republic of South Africa, Bobby Moore, has disclosed. Speaking at the Outward Selling Mission program in Lagos, Moore highlighted Nigeria's critical role in South Africa's energy security, noting that the country's oil exports extend beyond bilateral trade. Nigeria also leverages South Africa's strategic position as a hub to distribute oil and other products across the wider Southern African region, including Botswana, Mozambique, and Lesotho. According to him, the partnership goes beyond commerce, reflecting deep historical ties and a shared vision for growth. This initiative is about more than trade. It is about building one on our shared history and creating opportunities that benefit both nations. Moro said, analysts say the relationships underscores the interdependence between Africa's largest economies and offers room for greater collaboration in energy, logistics, and regional integration. Zimbabwe has reintroduced a ban on maize imports following a successful harvest that is expected to fully meet domestic demand, a senior agriculture ministry official announced on Monday. The country, which faced a severe maize deficit last year due to an El Nino-induced drought, was forced to rely heavily on imports, including genetically modified maize. However, improved rainfall this season boosted production significantly, enabling local farmers to produce enough grains to supply millers and restore self-sufficiency. Authorities say the move aims to protect and encourage local farmers, ensuring the benefit from their investments in maize production. By curbing imports, the government hopes to stabilize prices, stimulate rural economies, and strengthen national food security. Zimbabwe has long relied on maize as a staple crop, but climate shock have repeatedly disrupted yields. The bumper harvest this year provides temporary relief, but experts warn that future sustainability will depend on long-term investment in irrigation and climate-smart agriculture to cushion against unpredictable weather patterns. And moving on, India exporters are preparing for a major hit after trade negotiations with the United States broke down, paving the way for steep new tariff on Indian goods. From Wednesday, Washington will impose an additional 25% duty on a wide range of imports from India, raising total tariffs to as high as 50%, among the highest levied by the U.S. in recent years. The measure announced by President Donald Trump aimed and confirmed in a Homeland Security Department notice it's widely viewed as retaliation for New Delhi's increased purchases of Russian oil, despite Western pressure. Exporters warn that the tariffs will erode competitiveness in key sectors such as textiles, pharmaceuticals, and engineering goods, potentially leading to cancelled contracts, job losses, and reduced foreign exchange earnings. While both nations have described their ties as strategic, the latest move threatens to strain relations and disrupt billions in annual trade. Analysts say unless fresh dialogue resumes, Indian exporters may face long-term challenges in maintaining access to one of their largest markets. And in South Korea, they are pressing ahead with a non-binding agreement with the United States to structure $350 billion in investment pledged under their July trade deal. The funds will target strategic industries such as minerals, batteries, chips, pharmaceuticals, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and shipbuilding, with Shell allocating $150 billion to boost its shipyard industry presidential policy. Advisor Kim Yong-byung confirmed after meetings in Washington that both sides are working towards a memorandum of understanding to guide the financial package. A task force led by the Finance Ministry and state-backed banks will oversee detailed implementation, balancing loans, guarantees, and limited equity investments. The deal follows disputes over profit distribution after U.S. officials suggested Washington could take up to 90% of returns. Shell has rejected these, stressing safety mechanisms such as U.S. commitment to product purchases and commercially feasible projects. President Donald Trump has said the investment will be channeled into projects owned and controlled by the United States. And moving ahead, Indonesia has announced that the United States has agreed in principle to exempt its palm oil, cocoa, and rubber export from President Donald Trump's 19% tariff imposed earlier in August. Chief Economic Minister and Tariff Negotiator Erlangga Hartarto confirmed that the exemption will apply once a financial agreement is signed, though no time less has been set as Washington remains engaged in talks with other countries. The deal marks a breakthrough after Jakarta initially faced the same tariff rate as Thailand and Malaysia, despite being among the first nations to strike a trade pact with Trump in July. Indonesia had offered billions of dollars in American investment and committed to importing U.S. crude, liquefied petroleum gas, aircraft, and farm products, alongside pledging zero tariffs on almost all American goods entering its market. Erlangga also disclosed that talks included potential U.S. investment in Indonesia's fuel storage facilities involved the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Mantara, and state-owned energy company Pertamina. He emphasized that exemption will apply to products not produced in the U.S., ensuring tariff rates drop to zero or near zero for Indonesia's largest commodity exports. And moving ahead, the United Kingdom is facing a growing crisis in the reliability of its official economic data, which Economics One is severely undermining both academic research and government policy making. The Royal Economy Society sounded the alarm on Tuesday, with President Imran Rasool highlighting critical gaps in labor market statistics that make it difficult to access trends in wages, employment, and inequality. Rasool emphasized that the lack of accurate and timely data is weakening the country's ability to evaluate the impact of public policy, particularly at a time when the UK economy is under pressure from persistent inflation, weak productivity, and global trade shifts. The society is calling for urgent remedial action to restore the integrity of key indicators and rebuild trust in national statistics. The data quality concerns come as policymakers prepare for major fiscal decisions heading into 2026. Economists argue that without dependable data, the UK risks basing long-term strategies on incomplete or misleading evidence, potentially worsening socio-economic challenges instead of solving them. And moving on, the European Union has strongly defended its digital regulations following renewed threats from United States President Donald Trump to impose tariffs on countries implementing digital services taxes. Responding to the criticism, European Commission spokeswoman Paula Pinho stated on Tuesday that the EU has the sovereign right to regulate its economic space in line with its democratic principles and legal system. The statement comes amid heightened transatlantic trade tensions as Washington accuses the EU's digital tax measures of unfairly targeting American tech giants. Trump's latest warning issued Monday signals potential tariff actions against several European nations if digital taxes remain in place. The White House argues such policies discriminate against United States firms and violate international trade norms. EU officials insist that digital services taxes are aimed at ensuring fair taxation of multinational digital companies operating within European borders. The issue has stalled broader trade cooperation and is now at risk of spiraling into a fresh round of tariff wars. Brazil maintains that any changes to digital taxation should come through global consensus, but it remains firm on its current regulatory stance. And now we'll be taking a break. We'll come again with more stories. It's still the World News here on Souqnews Television. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Cocoa has more than tripled in costs over the past year and is up 129% this year. The rise in cocoa prices is likely due to a global cocoa shortage. Climate change-induced drought has ravaged crops in West Africa, which contributes around 80% of the world's cocoa output. According to the International Cocoa Association, global cocoa supply will decline by almost 11% over the 2023-24 season. The world produces nearly 6 million tons of cocoa beans each year, and consumers may begin to feel the impact of this shortage by the end of this year or early next year. Nigeria's cocoa earnings in the first quarter of this year surged by 279%. Driven by a sharp increase in its prices in the international market. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBC) indicates that in the first 3 months of the year, the value of cocoa exports totaled 408.66 billion naira. This represents an increase of 279% from the 179.5 billion naira recorded in the first 3 months of 2023. When compared to the preceding quarter, total cocoa exports increased by 138% from 117.29 billion naira recorded in the preceding quarter. Despite the significant depreciation of the naira in the first quarter of the year, the dollar value of cocoa exports saw a significant increase both year-on-year and quarter-on-quarter. There was a 63.3% increase in the dollar value of Nigeria's exports between the fourth quarter of 2023 and the first quarter of 2024. Using the closing rate of the dollar to the naira at the end of December 2023, cocoa exports for the period stood at $188.83 million. This increased to $312.19 million at the end of the first quarter of 2024, using the exchange rates at the end of March. Year on year, the dollar value of exports in the first quarter of 2023 stood at $223 million. Bayo Olaoye, Souqnews.
For more than a century, Zambia has stood as a prominent figure in the mining sector, particularly renowned for its copper production, which remains a cornerstone of the nation's economy. Accounting for 3/4 of the country's export earnings, mining plays a pivotal role in Zambia's economic landscape. The focal point of this mining activity is the Copper Belt province, home to major copper mines like Lumwana and Konkola, alongside Sentinel in the northwestern province. These mines, operated by renowned international firms such as Barrick and Vendetta Resources, hold majority foreign ownership, with Zambia Consolidated Copper Mine Investment Holdings retaining minority stakes. Smaller mines in the Copper Belt region, backed by investors from countries like China, Brazil, and South Africa contribute to Zambia's diversified mining landscape. However, the country's mining sector faces various challenges hindering the potential growth trajectory. Fiscal policies introduced by the government, including royalty increases, the taxation policies, have negatively impacted mining profitability. Also, price volatility in global markets, infrastructural deficiencies like inadequate transportation networks, power shortages, and an uncertain regulatory environment further increases the sector's challenges. Moreover, labor disputes, safety concerns, and geopolitical risks stemming from political instability poses additional hurdles to Zambia's mining sector. To propel the nation towards its 3 million tons copper production goal, strategic measures are crucial, and these include leveraging digital technology through partnerships with AI and machine learning firms to enhance sector's efficiency and investment, stable policy framework in order to attract and retain investment, and provision of a conducive regulatory environment. Infrastructure strengthening supported by donor funding and concessional financing can also alleviate critical constraints such as transportation and power shortages. More so, environmental conservation is vital for sustainable development. Hence, mining companies must provide government-approved environmental management plans, prioritize durable equipment, and proper waste disposal techniques to minimize environmental degradation. Given copper's expected dominance in Zambia's exports, maintaining its position as Africa's economic hub demands a concerted effort. Israel Adeyemi, Souqnews.
Glad to know you never left. You're still watching the World News here on Souqnews Television. I will bring you more stories. Chinese President Xi Jinping will host more than 20 world leaders at a regional security summit next week in what analysts see as a show of global unity and a boost for sanctions-hit Russia. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is scheduled for August 31 to September 1 in Tianjin, a northern port city. The gathering will bring together leaders from Central Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East and Southeast Asia, underlining China's effort to position itself at the center of alternative global alliances. Russian President Vladimir Putin is among the invited leaders, with the meeting expected to provide Moscow another chance to deepen diplomatic ties despite Western isolation over the war in Ukraine. Beijing is using the forum to emphasize shared interest on security, trade, and regional stability, while projecting the SAO as a counterweight to Western-led institutions. Observers say the summit could further consolidate China's role as a leading voice for the global South in the era of Donald Trump's America-first policies. And now global markets slipped on Tuesday after President Donald Trump announced the dismissal of Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, intensifying concerns over the central bank's independence. Long-dated U.S. Treasury yields rose, stock futures weakened, and the dollar retreated, while gold and German bonds relied as investors sought safe haven. Cook, whose term was set to run until 2038, rejected Trump's demand to resign, saying she would not be bullied to step down. The move adds to Trump's broader battle with the Fed, where he has repeatedly pressured for rate cuts and threatens to fire Chair Jerome Powell. Analysts warned that Cook's ouster could accelerate Trump's reshaping of the rate-setting Federal Open Markets Committee, Investors now see higher prospects for near-term rate calls, with 2-year Treasury yields slipping, while the 10-year and 30-year yields edged higher. The fallout extended to Europe, where French bonds and stocks stumbled amid fears of political instability as Prime Minister Francois Barrot faces a confident vote over budget cuts. France's CAC 40 index fell more than 2%, led by sharp drop in banking shares, with Trump's tariff threats also resurfacing. Market face heightened uncertainty heading into September's critical Federal Reserve meeting. And now the United States has agreed in principle to exempt Indonesia's export of cocoa, palm oil, and rubber from a 19% tariff introduced by President Donald Trump earlier this month. A senior Indonesian official has confirmed. Indonesia's chief economic minister and top trade negotiator Erlangga Hartarto told Reuters on Tuesday that the exemption would take effect once both governments included are finally reaching agreement. However, they noted that no firm timeline has been set as Washington is currently preoccupied with broader tariff negotiations involving other countries. The deal offers real for Indonesia, a major supplier of key agricultural commodities to global markets, and comes amid concerns that prolonged tariffs could disrupt trade flows and weaken farmer incomes. Cocoa, palm oil, and rubber are among the country's most valuable non-oil export, and Hartarto stressed that maintaining U.S. market access is critical for rural livelihoods. Analysts say the exemption, once finalized, could ease tensions in bilateral trade relations and help stabilize commodity prices in international markets. And now India exporters are bracing for severe disruption as the United States enforces a steep 50% tariff on a wide range of goods from Wednesday following the collapse of trade negotiations between the two countries. The additional 25% hike announced by President Donald Trump and confirmed by the Homeland Security Department is aimed at personalizing India for its increased imports of Russian oil, with two-way trade between the nations valued at over 190 billion United States dollars. The move marks a sharp escalation in economic tensions. The tariff are expected to impact nearly 55% of India's merchandise export to the United States, worth about 87 billion United States dollars annually. Key sectors including engineering, goods, textile, gems, and processed food are particularly vulnerable. Exporters report that U.S. buyers have already halted new orders and anticipate a 20 to 30% drop in shipments starting in September. The Indian rupee closed at a 3-week low of 87.68% per dollar, while equity markets recorded their worst season in 3 months, each falling by 1%. In response, the Indian government plans to provide financial relief through enhanced loan subsidized and support for market diversification. Officials have identified nearly 50 countries, including China, Latin American nations, and the Middle East, as alternative export destinations. However, exporters remain cautious, warning that entering new markets takes time and may not fully offset the losses. Analysts also warn that the sustained tariff impact could reduce India's economic growth by up to 0.8 percentage points over the next 2 years. And still in the news, Turkish giant Galatasaray are considering a move for club Brugge midfielder Rafael Onyedika in a deal valued between 20 million euros and 30 million euros. The 23-year-old Nigerian has been linked with a summer exit from the Belgian champions, who could lose up to 3 key players before the close of the transfer window. Reports in Turkey suggest Onyedika has been offered to the Super League champions as he looks to take the next step in his career. Turkish sport journalist Finito Göker posted on X that Rafael Onyedika wants to leave club Brugge and has been offered to Galatasaray. While Galatasaray are yet to make a formal bid, the club has not dismissed the proposal and are weighing their options as they continue to strengthen their midfield. Onyedika joined Club Brugge from FC Milan in 2022 and has grown into a key figure, attracting interest from several European clubs. And we get the last story on the news. Nigeria's senior men's basketball team, the Tigers, wrapped up their 2025 FIBA AfroBasket champion with a respectable 5th place finish in Angola. Punch Sport Extra reports. The 13-day tournament, which ran from August 12 to 24, ended with the host Angola defeating Mali 70-43 in the final to climb a record-extending 12th continental title. Angola also made history as the most successful nation in AfroBasket, completing the competition unbeaten with a flawless 6-0 record. The triumph marked their 4th championship since the 2013 edition in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. The Tigers, making their 20th appearance at the tournament, saw their campaign cut short at the quarter-final stage following a 91-75 defeat to Senegal, who eventually secured the bronze medal. Despite missing out on a podium finish, the Nigerian side showed resilience and improved, solidifying their place among the continent's basketball heavyweights. And that's a wrap on the news this afternoon. But before we go, here is a recap of today's top stories. Nigeria's gross foreign reserves recorded fresh inflows of $28.7 million within 24 hours. NNPC boss Bashir Ojulari linked crude oil theft to international gangs and criminals. South Africa High Commission said the country sources more than 70% of its oil supplies from Nigeria. And Chinese President Xi Jinping will host more than 20 world leaders at a regional security summit next week. Turkish giant Galatasaray woos Rafael Onyedika with €30 million move from Club Brugge. Many thanks for watching. That's the news this afternoon. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at Souqnews TV for more. My name is Grace Komolafe. Do have a good afternoon.